Have PFM run it.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order a City Council workshop meeting, May 15th, 2019, approximately 6 p.m. And where the reason for the workshop is to discuss energy efficient options from ABM.
All right. So tonight we're going to present the overall idea, but a little bit more detailed in the actual projects that we would like to complete. The estimates are estimates right now, so we need to get some direction from you of what projects you want to do so we can further price that out, and then we'll bring back the final product to you at your first meeting in June. But so this meeting is, these are the projects that we would recommend. Here's some additional possibilities. And then what does council see us doing with this company, and what projects you want to see included in it. And just as a reminder, this strategy is basically we do some energy efficient work like changing out LEDs, buttoning up the building, so to speak, and the savings from that help us to pay off financing to complete larger other projects. So that is that's like the basis of the idea. So we're going to invite ABM to come up and go ahead and go through the presentation. If you have any questions, both of us will be available for that.
Thank you. Rob Duncan from ABM. You have the presentation slides in front of you. Quickly, as Courtney was saying, when it comes to pricing, I just wanted to jump to the third slide really quick. When it comes to pricing, we're working with them to do breakout pricing on all the various items. But I wanted to put this list up here so you can see all the various things that actually happens in a program like this. From full-on permitting versus just kind of swapping out a piece of equipment, all the way through all the design engineering, getting submittals, ensuring warranty, payment and performance bonds. This is like any other essentially construction project you would go through, from engineering through to implementation. So all these are factored into the pricing, but instead of it being a building, it's kind of pieces of different things that are going on. So as you see the various prices, I want you to know all the various things that go on here. The important part of it is, again, we're going to take 100% accountability of everything. So when the scope of work is approved, we're going to own every single aspect of this. So there isn't going to be any change orders. There isn't going to be, oh, this wasn't factored into the engineering, and you have to come out of pocket for additional costs. Okay, so we have considered everything in the contract. When we get to it, we'll even protect the city to that end, okay, to make sure that everything is contractually covered. The base scope, we want to go through this really quick because this is the component that actually pays for itself. The base scope is the items that have energy efficiency or other cost savings associated with them in an ongoing budgetary basis. These things include all the LED upgrades that we're looking at in various locations, some control enhancements, which is setting back thermostats to make sure that air conditioning isn't running all night. They can go up to like 78 degrees or so at night instead of cooling to 74. Building envelope, outside air intrusion, etc. So when we look at the base scope across the main facilities and a couple of the parks where we're looking at the LED lighting, that is slightly over $200,000 with about $15,000 in guaranteed energy savings and further savings in operational in not having to replace light bulbs and that type of item. So this is the base scope that basically the program is based off of. As we look at this, you can see one of the interesting items, I don't know, there's this, when you look at City Hall, you see a whole bunch of red X's. Why can't we do indoor LED and outdoor LED retrofits here? That's the first thing that jumps off the page. Wait a minute, why isn't this self-funding? And one of the challenges here, it's kind of a challenge in a good way, is you put solar on the roof. So when we talk about energy savings, if solar is producing enough energy to pay for, there's no dollar savings in kWh. So there's, the utility bill comes in, you have two different charges. One is kilowatt hours, the amount of time you're actually having electricity on. And you're producing enough from your solar to basically pay for all your kilowatt hours in City Hall. So the runtime of the lights, there is no dollar savings associated. There is a demand charge, that's the total amount of energy the building could be consuming at any point in time. And they're going to charge you for that because if the solar isn't producing because there's clouds, they still have to provide the power. So we can save on kilowatt demand charge, not on kilowatt hours. So the lighting in City Hall will not pay for itself in a matter of dollars. There is still savings, it's just kW only, kilowatt demand, not kilowatt hours. Okay, so please.
What is this 14,685, over what period of time is that savings?
Oh, fair question, thank you. And please, ask questions throughout. This is a workshop, I don't want this to be presentation one way.
Okay.
That is annual guaranteed dollars.
It's annual. Okay.
Annual. So it'll be under $15,000 the first year. And again, you can see at the bottom, we have final verification of numbers. This number could go slightly up or slightly down as we dot all the i's and cross all the t's. But that'll be every year, and it'll be put in the contract that way for 15 years. There are other City Hall, if you look at the next page, because in the big spreadsheet, the things that aren't individual line items, the other energy conservation measures in City Hall, they do exist. They're just not going to pay for themselves, but they are worth considering and things that staff had recommended for inclusion. So some HVAC enhancements here. There are some areas where the cooling, the way the ductwork is flowing isn't really that efficient, and it's leading to people having to have heaters because we're overcooling certain areas to keep things like server rooms cool. So we can fix some of those items. There's some cost savings annually, just not necessarily enough to pay for it. Retrofit LED lighting, take care of the building envelope. That can be done. There's additional guaranteed energy savings with that, just not quite enough to pay for the scope. But these are worthwhile upgrades for the building, again, just not quite self-funding.
Ralph, can we go back to the
Please.
last page? And can we talk about the Pelican Beach Clubhouse?
Yes.
So are we saying that there's really not much we can do there because I'm seeing all red X's? Is that basically the building itself?
Yeah, you've recently done a bunch of upgrades over there so that the air conditioning units are relatively new. The LEDs were retrofitted in there, so there's no LED retrofits to be done. And the building, if you've been in there recently, you see it's been repainted. The whole building is in good shape. There are some external stuff, other items that we'll see that we're looking at over there. But as far as the energy conservation measures, that building's in good shape. Over at Schechter Center, a couple of different things. One of the things we looked at was the air conditioning. You had a significant event a couple of years ago with the chiller, and that was kind of an impact item. I think that maybe was an unplanned expense that you had to address. We said, okay, well, the chiller is only one part of the cooling system. You have air handlers as well, and these air handlers are all 19 years old, and you're going to have to start replacing those. They're not going to just run forever. So we did analysis here, and a couple of things. What was asked for by staff is, okay, let's find the 3 worst air handlers and let's address those as part of the project. There's 9 current air handlers in the Schechter Center, so we're looking at addressing 3 of the 9. And then there's also, because of over in the Mr. Science area, a few years back, you started occupying a space that wasn't previously conditioned. And the way that they did that was they tied into an air handler and just brought extra cooling over there. That's not really the way that the building was designed. It's inefficient and ends up with hot and cold spaces and people kind of cheating air conditioners to run a certain way. So what we're recommending here is adding an additional air handler unit to the Mr. Science area and then pulling out, kind of some of the stuff that was done just to get cooling in there and then kind of put it back the right way.
I got a question there.
I do see what you said.
9 air handlers. I mean, is there, let's just say the building was ground zero, it was just put up with today's technology. how many air handlers really need to be there? Is there 9 there because of the way the building was constructed, or was there when we took the building over? Is there a more efficient way than to have 9? Because if you put 9 back, X number of years down the road, you're going to be repairing 9.
Yes, so if there was a number that's not 9, it would be a higher number, not a lower number.
Really?
For a building
Yes.
that size, yeah.
I understand. My feeling when I look at some of the things on the sheet, I'm not trying to jump
Please.
ahead, but that's a pretty important building in my mind here in the city. 1,000 kids a week go through it in the summertime. I mean, it's a used building, even not during the summertime. So to be efficient there, to me, because it's a building that's used a lot, I think it's something that needs to be looked at. And, if there's a more efficient way to save energy and the maintenance on it, to me, that's where I'd like to see us look in some of those things.
Yes, and that's where this one additional air handler unit, this isn't.
We'll be adding one.
Yeah,
Whatever.
we're going to be adding one to make it basically run more efficient and not do some of the things, because, again, you bought this facility which was designed for one use and you change it to a different use, and that's fine. And most of the way the system is laid out is okay. The gym is laid out fine. There's nothing wrong there. It's just in the areas that you didn't put in drop ceilings, but now you have people in there. Could you put in drop ceilings? Could you do a complete closed loop? Yes, there's other things you can do to make this area more efficient. We had the conversation with staff. We said, all right, let's at least address the infrastructure, the mechanical system. So if we put this air handler unit in there, and we have this space conditioned off of just that air handler, you can now put in a drop ceiling, you can close in and put in walls at a future date, and this will still be the right system. So that's what we decided to attack here, putting up walls, putting in drop ceilings. Now we're getting into a much bigger project that maybe you guys can do at a separate time, considering all the things going on.
I guess you sort of answered the question. So, I mean, I've been in that space, and it's large, but it's not that large, and it does, is there any benefits of doing like mini splits instead of an air handler, or does the what's the cost, would there be any additional savings?
Very, very good question, and one of the things that we looked at is, and our team says, well, wait a minute, we can get an air conditioner, a split system in there a lot cheaper. Okay, so for start costs, we can put in a split system, and it would probably be less expensive than putting in the air handler, because putting in the air handler, what we're going to be doing is taking the water off your cooling tower and having to run the water all the way over there. Okay, so that's a little bit of labor. You have to run the electrical, et cetera. But that's the right system. That's the most efficient system. You'll be spending $0 extra in running the chiller. Okay, whereas if you put a split system in, now you have the electricity demand on both the condensing unit and the air handler. This way you only have the electric add of the extra air handler. So from a long-term efficiency standpoint, this is the cheaper way to go. It's also going to be one less part to maintain. So you have an air handler one way or another, but you don't have a condensing unit that also has to be maintained in the environment that's here. So this, I think, in the long-term total cost of ownership model, this is the way to go.
So that was one of my questions. The other one is, if we do put the air handler in there like this, are we, this is not a regularly used
Oh, it is.
area. I mean, is it used every day?
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that. I mean, this,
Didn't they? In the summer.
in the summer, but I'm saying, will we have the ability at times of the year when this is not, used all the time of, doing something with the thermostat to be more energy efficient? I mean, if we don't have to cool it or.
Yeah, we do that now with all our.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yes, one of the things that, and we can make a presentation of hundreds of slides, so please keep asking the questions, so we don't want to put in here. One of the things that we showed staff is you already have a high-end control system. That's there. That can do trending, and one of the things, some of the things weren't turned on, and we turned them on, so we can start trending how these units are actually running, and over time, we'll be able to go back in and make adjustments and tweak for better savings. So you have the right system in place. It's just a matter of actually going in there, looking at it, and seeing how it's running. There may be some tweaks going forward, but yes, you can control it. You already have the system in place to control it. It's just a matter of actually managing and controlling.
In that space that was historically not air conditioned, Mr. Science himself built the thing to bring the air up. So it's basically like kind of just stealing, not to be bad with him, I'm just saying that you're basically just moving air from where it shouldn't be, or should be, to where it shouldn't be, and it's causing problems elsewhere. It's also, we're struggling today because we need to do a fire separation project with that building, with that room itself. But we feel like if we do these long-term improvements, it's not a bad investment, because even if Mr. Science leaves, there's people lined up to take that spot. So it's not an unused building, and it's not an unused room, and the better, we could take our time to get it brought up, but we do need to bring it up to code with the separation. I think, the drop ceiling is a big, just to make it look better. And then this is the first step of getting it into its own, making sure it's got its own, thing, putting it right to begin with. And we thought this was a good time to get that done, because we've been wanting to do this for, I don't know, since I've been here, 6 years now. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so, and I think that's kind of the key, that it was Mr. Science to get cooling in there now, which affects the other area that the cooling is being taken away from.
Right.
So that leads to inefficiency. Now, we believe there's going to be efficiency improvements here, but it's really hard to get our engineers to sign off on exactly what that will be. Okay, so there isn't guaranteed energy savings associated with this. We don't believe, but we're going to measure it, and there'll probably be an upside on the energy savings when it comes to this. It's just hard for us to guarantee, because we're adding in one area and making the other one run less than it is. That's a little hard to get the engineers to say, okay, here's a number we can guarantee, but there should be efficiency improvements. A couple of things just to note as we went through here. The units we're looking at replacing, this one has a leak in it already, so these are going to be maintenance concerns, and these are going to be capital items you would have to address in the very short term anyway. So we're not going in there just replacing units willy-nilly. We're replacing units that have known issues. This is actually a coil. Usually you can see kind of the lines. So, this is a hard to get to unit, and it just looks like it kind of got coated up. So instead of trying to repair this unit and bring it back up, we'll just replace it, because it's time.
And we had plans, staff, we had all of these in there, and then we thought, maybe it would be better if we did these three and then budgeted 3 a year. I think we're right. Where's Brittany? Oh, she's over there. 3 a year for the next 2 years. That would be outside of the financing. So you have that choice. You could add them all in, or we'll be replacing 3 right now, 3 next budget year, and 3 after that. So we can stagger them a little bit. It's hard for us when we have them all in the same.
Were those in the capital plan that
We
we
were-
looked at initially?
It was not until they did their assessment. So this is the other advantage of this, is that,
Yeah, we're being aware of
we're
what's
being aware
going
of,
on.
yeah. And it's hard because you have, we've had a lot of AC breaks that have not had anything to do with age or maintenance or anything. It's just the luck of the draw. And so that's kind of taken our time for the last 2 years, and I think this is a good, way to get back on track, because, even though they've been maintained consistently, they're 19 years old. I don't think they could be maintained any better. So,
It's time.
when we were joking around with our AC units, we just kind of eke out every year that we can. So,
Let me ask you a question on that. So do you do 9 at once, and then that way, 15 years down the road, you're going to have 9 again? Or is the staggering better for us financially out in the future, so you're not taking this big hit at one time?
it's
So-
better for us sometimes, but this is council's discretion, I have to say. It's either way. We will probably have to take out another loan to do a big round of AC. This section is $350,000. So, this is what I'm saying, I don't see the city just ponying up $350,000. We'll either finance it or we will step it out. So it's up to council. I don't have a recommendation either way, quite frankly. So it's really your.
Are all the units the same age?
Yes.
Yes,
So they've all been up there for this long?
that's
Yes.
correct.
So we do these 3, and 6 months after these 3 are done, 2 more can go out.
That's the possibility.
Yeah, that's
But
what
I'm
I'm
just,
saying.
all I'm
agreeing
saying
with you.
is, how do you want to take a hit? Do we want to take a hit with at 3 staggered so that you're not hit super hard at one time, or that all 9, and they probably won't, but have a chance more likely to go out than if you space them, you're only maybe losing one here or there. I learned that from owning batteries in a boat. You never buy them both at the same time.
I think
From a safety
Alan wanted to
standpoint,
stagger because that gives them a little breathing room. I know that if we're going to replace them all, we're going to have to finance it. We just don't have that funding in our plans ever. So what I'm saying is, it is really your discretion. If that's something you want to do all at once, we're good with that. If you want to stagger it, that we're good with that as well.
Financing would have something to do, for me, is that if you had the line of credit available to you to use over a period of time, and we only paid interest on the used portion, okay, then you could stagger it, not get hit all at once.
At this point, what's worked for us is for example, the loan that you're going to hear later, the interest rate is very low. We've got a great interest rate. And the ability for us to put it in an interest-bearing account, we can't make it, we've got to make the money we make back less than the interest charge, but what it does is it kind of evens out. And right now, what I'm seeing is the construction costs are rising higher, at a rate higher than interest rates at this point. So that's why I'm not reluctant to do loans for maintenance, because of that reason.
I'll have more questions later on.
Yeah, I feel more comfortable with staggering it at this point. Like, if you were to ask me right now, that's a big chunk of money, even if it's financed. And, you know, I think the idea would be that for maintenance moving forward, we're always doing like a little bit, and not always having to take a big chunk regardless of financing or not. But it would be nice if we, you know, had the ability maybe not to have to finance all of it every time, and we could be setting some money aside accounting for these things, because, I mean, that can't always be the option. I mean, we got to try to be, at some point, a little.
And we'll, you know, when we get to budget, you'll see, like, you know, we've tried to do that with, especially like road paving and stuff like that, but you get to that challenge where you think, okay, you know, we can do this, this, and this, but man, we really want to lower that millage rate, you know, and so that's it's that balance that we're always in. So I would love to be able to set aside money like that every year. We've tried, since I've been here, and it's never worked out.
Well, we've
always
done it. We've done it. It just got used.
It got used for some other emergency, some other issue. So, you know, what I think, but I think your point is well taken, though, is when we do the set aside, we're not, if we're rushing around, we're not rushing around for 9. We're rushing around for 3. You know, so it's that.
Or maybe just
you know,
one, and then,
right, exactly.
Yeah.
So this might be an impossible question to answer. Is the rate of increase of cost for the building cost of something, at what % a year do you figure, if we don't do it now, okay, what's the % it's increasing each year against the 2.2% or whatever that note's going to be? So if it's only going up 1 and it's under the 2, then we're a win. If it's going up faster than 2.2% or whatever the note's going
And
to
I'd say
be,
that
then if
now
that's
it
going
is.
up faster.
5 years ago, it wasn't, but now it is. You see what I'm saying? Now it's changing.
But I think if you average that over a period of time and taking in recessions and so forth, there's a number that says that the annual increase in building costs over X number of years here.
I could probably find that for you between the meetings.
I'm just, the only reason I'm saying is, and it's off this subject, but it still has to do with money,
Yeah.
is there's some pretty cheap money out there still. So that difference, to me, is what we have to figure out. Are we beating, is that interest beating the increase that we would get by waiting?
It might be now, but we don't know.
But
You know what I
I'm
mean? If
saying
we
if
replace
you average this
9,
over a 10-year, 15-year period, you're going
Right.
to take recessions and you're going to take good times in, okay? I doubt very seriously if you go back into recession, was it lower at the bottom of that recession than it was 5
That's
years,
why
10 years
during-
earlier. So that's, I wanted to know that number, because
During
you
the
would take in
recession,
good and bad.
It was really hard for us, as managers, because we could do all of these projects for next to nothing, but we had no money to do it with. It was so hard, yeah.
The money costs you too, but, there's a
Yeah,
trade-off.
contractors were begging to do the work, and we had no money to do it. And then land costs were so cheap, too, we didn't have the money to buy the land either, so.
Well, maybe we'll get lucky and we won't get any hurricanes, and,
So if you all give us direction on those handlers and,
Is that the first thing you need?
Yes, so, real quick, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Right here, this number 325,991, this was for all 9.
Yes.
Okay,
Oh.
I changed the slide to 3, and I didn't change that number. So on the first slide,
Okay.
okay, the
Okay.
144 number is for 3, and the 325 is for 9. So the delta is the 180 something.
That sort of changes something.
Yeah.
for me.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because I
So-
was thinking like $1 million for 9.
Yeah, and
What?
144, if you take that by 3, it's way more than 325.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's 4. That's
That's
4 units.
four?
That's 4 versus 10.
Wait, I'm
You
confused.
say we need
And
9.
sorry, there was 9 replacing, and they were adding one. So
there's
10 would be
10 would be
the
the 325.
325,
Correct.
and the 4 would be the 180. Is that correct?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that one new one is deconstruction of all the stuff that was put up, buying a new unit, and then having to facilitize that whole new unit. So that's, the first cost on that is more than just swapping out a unit, because you have to put construction in, so that's what that factor is.
Okay. So finance will have something to do with this, I think, from my decision.
Yeah,
So
we
how do
could just
do
go
that?
through the rest of the presentation and the notes, but that's one thing that we need direction from you
Okay.
on. Yeah.
At the fire station, it's not a long-term hold, so we didn't look at, we looked at, but we're not recommending LED lighting upgrades in there. They will pay for themselves over a duration, but longer than the duration that you're looking at holding that facility. So the air conditioners, they've already been failing, so replacing them as part of the program, just as a way to benefit from borrowing money, basically, to do
And
these
those
projects.
units can be transferred to another building,
They'll
correct?
they'll be transferable to another facility. If you're getting rid of the building in 3-4 years, you can pull them off and put them someplace else.
Okay, so,
There would be,
good question there. So I'm saying is, in the design of this new fire department, public works, whatever, building, the new units you'll put in here would be compatible over there?
We'll probably have to have another one, though.
All I'm saying is, I'm less likely to do things, other than Patrick right now, on buildings that we know we're not going to. Now, we need air conditioning.
There's no doubt that we have to replace it.
This one's already up for replacement, and we helped, you did a patchwork on it to get it through the next few
We're 4 or
months.
5 years away from that.
This is
moving.
a unit that's failing, you're gonna have to do at a
Okay.
current budget if you don't do it this way.
Thank you.
Both units will definitely fail. They're beyond useful life. They're 15 years on top of the roof, exposed to the elements, starting to leak.
And we can get an absolute guarantee that those will be reusable and movable to,
You
So
can,
how do
you
you
can
handle-
reuse and move any of these. It's the size that matters, so if the building's bigger, we might have to add another one to
That's
it.
fine. Yeah, that's
but Right, am I
Design,
correct?
yes, design to the size becomes the key element. If 4-ton unit, 3.5-ton unit,
Right.
5-ton unit up there.
So
If
my-
you're designing a space that needs a 10-ton unit, you can move the unit, but it's not the right
so my
size. So-
question would be this. All right, so we designed that building to have 3 of these units, and we take these 2 from the fire department, we put them on there. How are we making that building still viable while that one's being finished without these 2 units on it? How are we switching them out and still operating out of this building over
And
here before that building is
We'll figure that out when
ready?
we get to the point, but I don't see that as a deal breaker. I mean, especially if we have to add another one, so
Well, I'm just looking at it logistically. I mean,
Do it during the winter.
I think, yeah, do it during the winter.
Yeah,
You can't go into that building until winter.
No, I think the
But
key
if
element
we
is.
tried,
the-
we could get them to set that up pretty quickly.
Okay.
The asset will be usable somewhere else if you decide to knock down the building, but if you decide not to knock down the building, you may decide to keep it there and decide on the assets later.
So these are for, so when you're deciding, you said the 4-ton and 5-ton or whatever units, when we purchase these, in my mind, if we're going to spend the money on them, I would like to see us buy the most effective one for the move looking forward size-wise, right? Like, so is that what we're looking to do, is we're putting in the best one for our future
No.
move, or are we doing what's going to work best
You
for?
really can't, because
That one's not engineered for.
yeah, it's not, we
engineered
don't
yet.
know that yet, and we haven't even conceptually designed that building yet. And I wouldn't do that yet, because this might work for the building if but
Okay.
if the building's just slightly, I think you'll see a slightly larger offices, but what you're really going to see over there is bigger bays. And so, those aren't
Okay, you don't
easy.
need these. Okay.
One of the major challenges here, and you'll see the biggest single dollar cost item here are the roofs. So you already had some roofs in your CIP budget you were looking at, so we're just looking at them as part of this program to manage the construction and taking care of the roof. So both the Schechter Center, the police station, and Pelican all need new roofs. And what we're including, sorry, I didn't mean to switch there. Over here, as we're looking, and I don't know how big the picture is that you guys have there, but there's cracking along the stucco. So when we're up there, this isn't just somebody going in there and ripping off a roof. We're actually going to guarantee, all the repairs. It's not somebody gets in there and, oh, I didn't know about this, here's a change order. So we're taking on all the accountability of all the necessary repairs.
So that's reflected in the DRS Community Center repairs, because that was a question that we went through when we were going through this with them was, what about that crack there? And that's one of the benefits of this program, is that they're going to fix all that, whereas if we just fitted out the roof, they would only fix the roof. Do you see
Got it. I have a question on it. The clubhouse. How much dollars do we put into, there's got to be a point where you can't pay the money into that building. The building is, been limped along, and I know at one point we had, more dollars, we were going to redo that building by tearing it down and doing it. So my thing is, what dollars is worth spending on that building?
What do you think we spend on that building a year? We do something to that building every year.
I think annually, we probably spend less than $10,000 on that building. And I think the revenue, Cassie would know better, that I'm sure the revenue covers that.
It definitely exceeds that.
What I didn't want to do was on a building that our life expectancy on it might be 5 years before we build something more permanent there, that I would rather see those dollars spent on other items.
Even with the newer, bigger building, we'd probably spend that on this, because it's not really just the building itself, it's the use. It's just so used. It rents out a year in advance, at least a year in advance for events. So they come in and fix things after every rental. They have to fix something. It's just because it's a public use building, and it's an extremely popular building for rentals.
I understand that. It's so used that I wish we had those funds, or we could rent it,
Skip the air conditioners and build that. Just kidding.
redo it.
I have a quick question. So the roof, is that a Galvalume roof that we have on there right now? Or was it
You mean
on the roof on the
Beach?
Pelican Beach?
Yeah,
And
it's
how old
actually
is it?
switched over. Do you remember what it is? It's the Pelican Beach roof. The current is,
What kind of metal is it? Straight?
It's Galvalume.
Galvalume?
Galvalume, yeah.
So that rust, we could patch that up. My neighbor went through this, and then couldn't we get a little bit more time out of that? I know a guy that knows a guy that can fix those and make it,
It's been patched a few times.
because what I've been told is that the reason why that happens is we should be hosing it off and
Well-
rinsing it regularly.
The problem with
To make
that
it
is
last.
that side is directly facing the ocean, The same thing we went through with all the pavilions that we just replaced and the restroom building. I would recommend, if we do it, to go to straight aluminum. If you go to Hightower's an aluminum roof, and if you look at that, there is very little wear, and I try to get the guys to, once a quarter, to go up there and wash it down. It doesn't always happen that way, you know, things being what they are. But that roof, the pavilion roof is also in really good shape. So I think the aluminum is the answer, the type of metal. And I think also is when they do it, the cuts they make, a lot now are pre-cut, where they used to not do that. They cut it out on site. And so you have open cuts that are vulnerable to the salt. So, I mean, those things, the technology has come so far as metal roofs, because everybody's doing it. You have better protection as far as the metal itself.
What did you just do on Pelican Beach Club, those roofs, do we do galvalume or do we do aluminum?
They're galvalume,
No.
I asked specifically.
No,
The new ones.
The new
Yeah.
ones are aluminum.
Yeah, they're aluminum, sorry, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I guess my question is, if we do eventually want to redo this building, which I would love to do, I mean, I was really devastated when we couldn't do it, because I would love for us to have a space. Can we get enough time out of this roof as it is and save that money to then maybe be used, or is it something that we really probably need to do? I mean, I'll take your opinion, that's just my...
Well, honestly, I mean, in the big scheme of things, that $553,000, that, the Pelican
It's a
Clubhouse is
tiny
a very,
one.
very tiny part of that.
Okay.
So
The
I don't
largest
think,
is the DRS.
yeah, the DRS
Okay.
building is the biggest part of that, and the police department, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
the clubhouse, if you look at replacing that building, you're looking at least $1.5 million to do that.
Return on investment though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if it's rented that
It would be
much and that
rented for
design
more.
of that building could double the amount of usage by how we would petition
I
it or
mean,
something.
if we looked at, with the amount of debt service that we have coming up, we have to let some payoffs drop off
Right,
before we
okay.
bring in more. And we don't have to, but that would be my recommendation. And then if we could sit down with REC and go through the rental, and maybe come up with a proposal of what the rents would need to be to bring in a new building, if you wanted to make it wash. So we could have that conversation in the next year. Maybe we could do that through the budget time, so you can make that plan. And we'll be glad to do that. But I think, we'll go through our debt schedule so you can see when we would want to make that recommendation, because I think we have about 3 more years before I would recommend putting another debt service on the table.
Okay. So 3 years is probably, we'll need a new roof. That's going to be a 30-year roof that we'll only get like 3 years out of.
We get about 8 or 9, right?
But if we're going to tear the building
That
down, we're
roof
going to put a new
was
roof.
actually done after the hurricane, so that roof is probably 15 years old.
I guess,
Okay.
no, my point is, we're going to put
Oh,
like a
yes,
30-year
right.
roof on a building that we're going to look to tear
Oh, it'll
down in
take-
3 years,
It'll
4
take
years.
Right.
take you about 2 years to come up with the plan to do a
Okay.
replacement. So, if you look
We're
at
5 years
5 years,
out.
yeah,
We're 5 years
5-year
out.
plan, then that, and then you can also, we could, I wouldn't recommend reusing that material, but we can always look at doing that.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry, Art. Go ahead.
Second.
Alan, just stay where you are.
The other item that we were looking at is the Solar Park retention pond. A couple of things on here, I highlighted, because in the dialogue with staff that we just had last week, a couple of things came to light, so we need a little bit of repricing on the way we're looking at this. But putting solar around the pathway, that sounds like something everyone wants to see, the solar LED around the pathway. Alan brought up a good point around the back of the ball field here. This is kind of a pretty big tree canopy. So we designed it with solar, and that's what this price is, but it may be better to have electrical out there just to make sure we don't not getting enough light out there, all of a sudden now the lights aren't going on. So there is right over here an electrical panel, that's what's using to run your fountain. So what we're doing is we're figuring out how much it's going to cost to trench over to here and then power 3 lights. So it's a completely different strategy. I can't tell you if that price is too high or too low. It could be close to the same, but we really need to get a firm number on that, and I can tell you right now, I don't have it. The parking lot as well, we priced out, I think, how many zones is this? This is 5 or 6 zones, but there's currently an existing utility pole right here. So because there's already an existing utility pole, we're not going to need at least one of these zones, maybe 2 of the zones, so that parking lot price will also go down. Okay, so right now, we just have some fine tuning on the engineering prior to this coming back. If this is what we want to go forward with, you see what the total price is now, it would be less than this for sure. How much less, I can't tell you today.
This
But-
is a choice that we need you to make,
Yes,
whether or not you want to do this.
Have we tried to get grants on this?
We got the Trails grant, but it did not include this type of lighting.
Well, what I'm saying is there grants out there for this?
We looked into it on a couple of different avenues, and there really isn't, because it's an amenity.
Yeah, because it's not, like, it doesn't qualify for a FERDAP because we're not putting in a playground and we're not putting, so it didn't qualify for that type of grant. And we also have too many FERDAP grants out already that we're trying to get or did not get. So there's just not we weren't able to fund it in the grants that we received for this project.
So let me ask this. The parking lot, I see where, we want to do concrete for 4 ADA stalls. Is this to pave the whole area?
No, there's no paving that we're just putting in
This
the
is
lights.
just lighting.
That's just
This
lighting.
is all just lighting,
Yeah,
okay.
this is
so-
just a lighting overlay on top of your existing design.
Yeah.
So we just use that as a map because Google Maps isn't up to date yet. So we just use your conceptual drawings.
So the lighting is expensive. This is,
And, there are people that have talked to me, and the first thing they say is, we love the park, but when are you going to put lights in?
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, it's a priority, because I think this is getting used, and people want to use it at night. And when winter comes and it's dark out at 4:30 or 5 o'clock, people are still going to be out walking, and they want to be able to walk with lights.
And we also
So-
divided it out for you to see if there's any sections that you didn't think were necessary. So that's another thing.
That's kind of what I was going to
Yeah,
comment.
there's a lot of things on here to me that are, really important.
Yeah.
And there's some that here, there's needs and wants.
Yeah.
And behind the ballpark, parking lot, I don't know. The path, probably could live with this because, I go there almost daily and people are using it. And so that would be something to me that would finish that. And some of the other things are more wants, I think, than a necessity for it. That's my concern.
Just one thing there, the one area that I think is probably more important than the rest is that trail coming from the parking lot to the pathway, because it is dark, it is covered by trees.
Are you talking about the south path?
Yeah, there's a safety
That-
concern
Yeah,
there.
that's definitely, yeah.
That's your real paved parking lot right over here.
By the tennis courts, that parking
Yeah.
lot, so the pathway.
So how many people are we seeing parking? So it's just in the reality check, I actually think, like, the path probably is a good idea. I'm questioning the dirt parking lot putting this in, because how much use is that getting at night? Most of the people, the way I visualize how this is being used, is people in the community are coming. I don't see, are a lot of people actually driving there to use it and parking there?
Well, the old saying, if you build it,
They will come.
And so, we built the park, and
It's
we had a lot of
incredibly well
complaints about what we were doing there, and guess what? They came.
Yeah.
And they're there. And so, once you put lights out there, and people know that there's lights out there,
There
it's
it
going
is.
to become a destination, I think. So people will drive there to use the equipment, to walk
People are driving
around
there
in
now.
the evening
Yeah.
time.
But at night, I
At
guess.
night.
Well,
Yeah.
how many lights are we talking about putting in this parking
Making it a
lot?
thing.
You know,
I mean, if we had 2 lights there, one in, kind of like more in the middle, that's going to light up the whole area. I mean, how many lights are we talking about putting there?
Fair question. So This design was put together this way to meet minimum IES standards. Okay, so IES is the Illumination Engineering Society. They have standards for, okay, a parking lot needs to be lit up this amount, the pathway needs to be lit up this amount, okay? And this is minimum standards. Now, it's not necessarily code standards, it's a minimum on IES. So if the city decided, look, yes, you know what, let's do 2 instead of what's minimum standards, and you sign off on that, we can certainly do that, okay? We can't bring forward a design that doesn't meet standards. We're going to bring forward a standard design, but you can certainly do less. You just have to understand
How
it'll be
many-
less
how
than
many- I
standards.
can't really read all of this. How many are actually in this area right now? 3?
I think this was,
Parking.
No, no,
Parking
no, I'm
lot.
talking about the new parking lot.
It's showing 6 there.
there were 7 zones. Yeah, there's 6 in the parking lot.
So the other.
6 in the parking lot now. We're talking about 2 on this end, definitely going away because there's already a light.
Okay.
So could we put just 1 light over here, so you have 1 on either end and nothing on the driveway up?
Well, something I think we should consider that I don't know if we consider, maybe you did, but that I need to consider is there's some houses right there, and how are these lights going to affect the people that are going to live there and have all this light at this parking lot? I think that I can guarantee you those people are not going to be happy with a bunch of lights,
No.
even if they're shining down, and even, there's going to be bedrooms that are going to be affected. I mean, people will complain, I'm telling you. I would
The
complain.
majority of the parking is actually on the eastern side of the parking lot.
Okay,
On the
It is true.
western
Tucked
side
back
is the
there?
kayak,
Yeah.
is the kayak launch, and
Okay.
people aren't going to be launching kayaks at night.
no,
So I think more than anything, if you're going to put lights in there, you might put 1 or 2, the handicap parking area 1, and then in the parking area to the north. So that would provide plenty of parking for people
Okay.
at night, because, to your point, there may not be a lot of people there, but if we light it, people are going to come. So
Yeah.
we have to provide some kind of,
I mean, look at the lighting we have on our streets. They're way apart, but
Oh,
you
yeah.
can still see on the street. I mean, we're not looking to light up the whole park. All we want to do is make people safe, and as long as there's some light there where they can see where they're going, I'm not looking for overkill. I just want to make sure we have something.
Yeah.
And I don't want too much. I mean, we don't need a lot of light there. We just need something so that people can walk and see back to their car and see that there's nobody lurking around.
This isn't even a money question. Cassie, did we originally say the park was open dawn to dusk? Did we ever officially give, like how Pelican is open dawn, till dusk? The pavilion area part.
It would be really
there's a
hard for us
sign
to
out
do
there.
that.
there's a sign out there
Right
that
now.
Is
says
there, what does that
that
say?
it's closed after a certain time. And if I quoted it, I'd probably be wrong, because I'm always
Right,
wrong.
okay.
So, because we had to actually tape over a portion of it, because the lady was in there while we were under construction, and she said, well, the sign says it's open. Well, there's a gate there, ma'am. What gate
So
on?
like
But-
at a certain
but
time,
there-
whatever
there
our
is a
time
sign
is, the
there.
lights turn off and,
It would be hard for us to keep people out of there, especially in the evening when there's sports
But I
being
mean, if
played on
it's-
the other side.
if it's dark and we
Yeah.
don't want them there, do we turn
Yeah.
the lights off at a certain
Yeah,
time?
I think we
I mean,
normally
the solar
close.
lights you don't turn off.
I mean, the ball
they
fields
close
and
at
stuff are
like
closed at around 10, yeah.
I think the sign out there, Alan, because I saw it, I said, I
10?
think it's 7 to 10.
It says 11, I think, does it say 11 at night till 6 in the morning?
Yes.
It's closed.
Closed.
Do you know?
Sorry. I'm looking at a phone.
Was that sign there before the park was redone? So it was when that was previously an intramural field?
So that's just.
So we can
something
People are
to
look
consider.
going
I
to,
don't
people
know.
are going to use that park at 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah,
They're going to be
the other teams that
walking.
were there were all done by 9 PM. I think we allowed them until 10, but nobody's there past 9
Okay.
for sports.
Okay.
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 And we'll come back to the decision slide in a second. Just a few other key items. The Schechter Center, the gym floor, you've had that in your budget for a while. You had a proposal already to do laminate flooring. We actually, right now, somebody else looking at a different type of solution that we'll bring back to staff for recommendations, where instead of going back over laminate, kind of mill down the floor. Because right now, there's a little bit of waviness out there. We can pull off the laminate, grind down and flatten out the cement, do an epoxy and paint over the top. So we're looking at that from a price competitive standpoint to see if that becomes a better option for you to consider. And that's just an item in or out, and then we can let staff choose what they think the best option is. The Pelican deck is another item, I think, gotten to the point of end of useful life, so we're looking at that as well as the phone system.
And then that City Hall phone system. So staff would like to include, those items in this, because we need to do them anyway. But there's some other items that, for example, this is the idea, this is a green achievement target that they could do for the City Hall lawn out here to xeriscape it. So that would be an addition if you wanted to do that, to get one of your green achievement targets done. It doesn't have to look like that, but that would be, one of your GATs if you wanted to complete that.
The range here is based off of discussion with staff. If we want to have for community involvement and decide the number of trees you're going to put in, there's how much do we use as far as a base versus how much plants are in there. That kind of changes the way that the pricing would look. So this was an initial drawing that had about a $50,000 scope. Staff said, hey, we may want some more large mature trees already, so we kind of increased the budget a little bit. But this is, again, in or out at your disposal, and then you can say, okay, let's use this number as a budget, and then you can open it up for either public engagements, staff engagement, however you want to do it.
We stopped the fertilizing of City Hall and pest, herbicides and stuff like that, and so you can start seeing the patches come in. I mean, when you stop doing that St. Augustine grass, the consequence is the fact that it doesn't grow very well. So we will at some point need to do something different, and this was one of the ideas, is to xeriscape the entire front lawn.
I think if, looking at the one on the left, my version would be the more grass we can get rid of, the less time we have to have Public Works out there cutting it. And it's also, if you look at the picture on the right, I mean, all that grass clipping, it goes right into that body of water. I mean, so anything that we can do to curtail stuff going into the water, I think, works to our advantage. I mean, there's different things that could be planted along. Those could be swaled in such a way where, anything that's going down goes into the swale before it goes in. I kind of like the picture on the left. Whatever we can do to accomplish something that keeps grass out of the water, I'm all for.
If I may. Okay. The addition, is that the last slide?
That's the last slide, then we go back to the financial.
All right. The only reason I was saying is, looking at the time, I want to have public comment on this. So, council's permission, let's go to public comment, and then we can come back. At this time, open up for public comment on this item. John.
John Fergus, 135 Maple. I was interested in the man charge conversation. I tried to figure what savings would be if we could level the load at the Schechter Center. I technically don't have the ability to do it. These folks probably do. And even though you're using solar during the day here, if you've got much of a load at night, like people meeting in the Civic Center at night, that peaks your demand charge. And so I don't know. These folks, it sounded like they don't think that's going to be cost effective. I got the feeling from what I did at the Schechter Center that could save you a lot of money there. A huge amount of that had to do with, there were spikes that were 20 minutes or something during the day, but it drove the cost for the whole month. And so, even things like don't clean at night, clean during the day, so you leave the lights off, that type of thing. So again, demand charge, I'm interested if they looked at that more maybe, or they already have. And the city looked into doing dark skies. We've gone to Plan B, which is dim skies. That's not the term, but that was the original suggestion. Because we do not and cannot meet with the current FPL streetlights. The reason? Because their frequency, their illumination is the wrong color. It's too blue by just a little bit. So I would suggest anybody doing anything with external lighting in the city, make sure that all the lighting you do is dark skies eligible. And then over time, as we attrit the lamps that are on the streets and things, we may be eligible. Those were the only two things I picked up.
Thank you, John. Mic still open? Further public comment? Here, no further. Back to council.
So what do we have to look at?
So Courtney, what you're looking for is this list right here of the scope
Right.
selection, correct?
Yeah, so if you go
Page
to,
two.
yep, if you get to that page, the base scope is, you know, to do the project, we have to include that. And then we have these additional items that we want to include. There's some that, for example, the City Hall scope, the community center, the Schechter Center, air handlers, the fire station HVAC, and then all the roofs. For us, those are definite needs that we would like included in the project. However, there's these other items like the pond pathway, like the, you know, the pond lighting, the gym flooring, the Pelican Beach deck or Pelican Clubhouse deck, the phone system, and then also the xeriscaping in City Hall. Those things that we need direction from you on in getting that done.
So are we going with the 3 units at
that's
144,
the other
or
issue.
are we looking at the additional units at 325?
Right now, we had a recommendation for the 3. So
That's what I'm
if
comfortable
you
with.
want to do the 9, then we can include that.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to take that first and then.
Well, yeah, let's, 2.2 is the interest,
No, we don't, that's a totally different loan.
different?
Yeah.
So we know what the interest would be
No.
here?
We're going to bring that back to you on the 6th.
Okay, so,
It's based on 3.4.
I know it's on 3.4, but we just got to something, I was just wondering if it was going to be close.
We might
Right,
not.
okay. Okay, let's real quickly take the air-conditioned units. Do we want to go with the 3 or get it done?
Can I ask a question first? When we first met and talked a month or whatever, 6 weeks ago, did you have a basic, didn't we have kind of a basic amount in mind that you hadn't done any of the stuff yet, but you thought that it could be around this cost? Did we have an original basic number, and is this close?
It's
To what we-
close. The major change was at the Schechter Center, those air handlers, we weren't really thinking that those were going to be necessary for inclusion. It wasn't until we started looking at it, we said, okay, maybe we need to at least start it here, if not do the whole thing. So that's one main change. We knew about the roofs, we knew about, you know, the baseline scope.
So even
I think it was
3, even
1.3,
3
right?
handlers is kind of more than, or 4 handlers.
1.2? Yeah, we
Is
thought
that
it was
what
going to be
we're
around 1.2, 1.3.
Okay,
And
so
so
it's not,
it's 1.432 if you do everything on that list.
okay.
Okay, are the air handlers on the roof?
Mm-hmm.
So if we're doing the whole roof of the Schechter, they're not on the roof.
Sorry,
No, I
so,
thought they were.
yeah, on the police station, so there's a couple of things on the roof that we need to be aware of. On the police station, the condensing units are on there, and part of the roof replacement is actually getting hurricane stands and getting those mounted the right way. Right now, they're just kind of free floating on top of the roof. So they are on the roof at the police station, and there's considerable work needs to be done to make those the right way. At the Schechter Center, the air handlers are actually inside the space, so you have the cooling
So they're
tower
not-
on the
they're
roof,
not
but
gonna
there's nothing
affect-
else up there.
Let's-
No.
okay. My suggestion, because of time too, is right now, the discussion, I think, needs to be either 3 or 9.
Well, the reason why I
That's
was
why we
asking
need
is
direction.
if they were on the roof and we're going to be doing the roof, I was going to say, let's do 9, because we got to,
Right, well,
I'm going with 3. That's what I feel comfortable with.
question. I like the 9, get it done, if they're that bad, and for that dollar, and if we can get it for that interest. And again, that's the unknown, Courtney, so it's hard for me to say that, but if we can get the loan interest correct, or low enough, then that's going to outweigh, it's going to cost us more 3 years from now, is my projection.
See, I'm looking at it the same way Frank is, because for $185,000 on top of what this is, we're getting 6 more done, right?
But what do we do when we're 10, 15 years down the road and we're not in a financial situation where we can get a loan or we can do all this stuff, and we're sitting in the same boat with 9 air conditioning units looking to be redone
Well,
at the
you're going to
same
be in that
time?
same boat
Every year.
really.
But if you're
you did them
staggering
next
it-
year, if you did 3 this year, 3 next year, and 3 the year after that, you're pretty much in the same boat because you're still doing them in a 3-year period. So it doesn't matter, 15 years down the road, you may be looking at replacing them all at the same time anyway, or you may start doing them at 13 and a half years and finish them at 17.
I don't know,
But I mean,
Mark has a quick mark.
And Rob, this is from personal experience. Here recently, I had to have 2 air conditioners replaced at my house. The one was completely gone, and they were both put in at the same time, same unit and that sort of thing. So I asked the guy who put in the air conditioner, I said, what have I got left on the other one? He said, well, they're same time, engineered same days, built the same days. You might get another 6 months out of it. And then the second one's going to go out. So you're looking at August, September, October going out. So I guess that's saying that to Rob. My point is that if one's failing and 2's failing and 3's failing, the other ones aren't far behind it. And whether it's, I get what you're saying, Mindy, about 10, 15 years down the road, but I could certainly see us getting to October, November, and find, 2 more went, and that sort of thing. And then January, February, 2 more went, and that sort of thing. So I can go either way with you guys if you want, on doing 3 and then moving and pushing it out. But the engineering behind it is they're probably all going to fail within a reasonable period of time of one another. So, isn't that correct?
I think that's correct. It's certainly possible with, extra care and extra maintenance, you could get an extra few years, even up to 5 years out of some of the units. It is risky to say which ones are for sure going to be the ones that are going to last. So as anytime we get into pick 3 to replace and then do 3 more next year, 3 more the year after that, what if you pick 3 to replace and then another one fails? And if you've already used up your allotment of dollars and then you have a unit fail, it becomes a problem. So it's a tough way to do it.
It's a gamble. We're just gambling.
Right. The way to do it is proactive. 20-year units at 15, you start replacing them. If you're in front of it, then you can do it. But if you get at the end of useful life, it gets really difficult.
Okay, thanks.
Courtney, just a question real quick. We have a meeting at council, supposed to start at 7. Do we want to recess this and pick it up at the end of council again? Because it looks like to me, we're going to have some more discussion on this. Or do you want to keep going and start the council late?
Keep it going.
And start the council late? Okay.
Can I just real quick make a point? The max loan that we can go for is 1.463 million. The cost you have here is for 3 air handlers at 1.432. So what you'll have to do is if you want to do the 9, you will have to cross out some things on here. So if you want to do the 9, then we can just give us some, maybe a rating of the things that you want to do. You think what's the most important, and on the 6, we can bring back a better, tighter proposal.
So I'm going to ask, is this gym floor something that can wait? Or are we at a point where, because I know it gets used a lot.
We'll have to budget that this coming year in a separate budget item.
Can we do it in a separate and gain 125,000 right here?
Yes.
Okay, so that's something we could
If you
take
don't want to
out.
include it in the loan, yeah.
Okay.
But you'll have to budget it separately.
Cassie?
It was already in the capital plan
Yeah.
to do this coming budget year.
Okay. So we can take that out and gain 125 towards air conditioners? You still have life in that floor, even though you're replacing it. You can live with the floor, but you're not going to live without air conditioning, correct?
We need to do the floor. Yeah, it needs to get done. And it was scheduled to do it this coming year, but
You have it on.
for the past 2 years, we've had players saying, we need to do the floor. So
Okay.
There's some,
Is that in the budget, though?
Press areas
Is that in next year's budget where we can take it out? I'm trying to gain.
you haven't passed next year's budget yet, but it was planned to be in there, yeah.
Okay, so we can lose 125,000, and we can add that to the 140, for 145 if we decide we want to do the 9 units. I'm just looking at things that
What was the max we
possibly-
could go for? What was the max you said it was?
1.463.
This price does not have the Xeriscape, built in, and we never talked skate park. Is that, we're not even worrying about that right now? Those 2 items never came up tonight.
Where's the skate?
Skate park
Oh.
and...
Yeah, there wasn't a
skate park.
separate slide for that, I apologize. Yes, there's skate park, the
I'm
skate
sorry.
park itself, and LED conversion. Those lights don't run as much as the parking lot, which run all night long. So there's a lot more energy savings in the parking lot going to LED. But of course, it's going to look a lot nicer if the skate park goes to LED. So those are both options as well.
My feeling is that on something like this, major capital assets that need to be repaired, things that are $25,000 and stuff like that, I think we could possibly maybe handle within our budget. But $500,000, $300,000 some dollar stuff, I think is where we would use it here, because some of those other things are a little more wants than needs, and I know you need a new gym floor, but if it took me next cycle to get it, the floor in the place is still being usable. What's not usable is if the air conditioning units go out. So my thing is here, is looking at all things that are for major capital improvements that are over a dollar amount that we have a harder time handling in our normal budget, if that makes sense.
It does.
Do I have consensus on that? Or-
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do the numbers here. I'm looking
So-
at,
Well, let us, you can let us do that.
okay.
Did you-
Okay, so I'll bring it back to you. I just need to know what your priorities are.
Okay.
So with the Pelican deck, do you see that as a major,
No, I personally don't, because it's a $25,000 item, not a
understood?
$300,000.
I think the parking lot lights,
The new parking lot, yeah.
lights could be reduced.
I think we could reduce that figure, and I think that would come, because I'm coming up with $56,000. If we
If
can
we-
reduce,
If we could make the retention pond solar or electric LED lighting to be under $160,000, would that be acceptable to you if we brought back a proposal to do that?
yes,
Okay.
that would be
Okay with
for
everybody
me.
else?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Is that, is if we're starting to reduce some of the lights in the parking lot,
So you're taking all those 3
Then-
lighting, you're taking the 3 lighting figures and you're combining them down so that it's going to be about 160,000, is that what you're saying?
right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Spread the lighting
Come
all
back,
over.
yeah, with those on that.
So that or close to it. you
That
know,
should put us, that should put us underneath the number you gave us.
Okay, and then going back real quick to the Xeriscape, is that a priority for you, or would you like to see us try to get that done another time?
Another time.
I'd say another time, or maybe that's something we can look at as a budgeted item at some point in time.
Okay,
I'm surprised that couldn't be a grant somehow.
Yeah, and we could probably do something different on that.
I think that's true. We probably could do that. Okay.
All right, you good with everything?
Yes.
Everybody good? And if you have other questions you want to bring to
Rob,
Courtney
thank
and
you.
staff.
And the skate
before-
park lighting, you think that's a good skate
what?
park, the skate park lighting? If I could wrap that in, if I could, we
Wrap
could
it, you
squeeze that
bring it
into the
to us,
total
and let's
cost?
see what we can
Okay.
do. Okay?
The lighting, not the,
Yeah,
Right, the lighting.
okay.
Yes, right.
I'd put that at the bottom.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would put that.
So if we can't get it in, you're okay
I'd
with us
rather
wrapping
have
that
the
on?
pond that we did to finish it for people, because the use that it's getting
Okay.
for walking to me is.
So the extra priority is the pond.
Okay?
Okay.
That good with everybody? Any further?
I'm just going to say 15 years from now, I'm going to say I told you so on the air conditioning units. But yes, I'm good.
Okay?
Yeah, so just to confirm, we're looking
Don't think I
at
won't.
the pond pathway, the behind path, as well as the parking lot in total, make sure we're under 160, and then we'll just work on the number of lights to get us there. So we can always just reduce scope to get to
Yeah,
under
because
a
that path,
number.
I mean, you still,
Yes.
there's no light now, so
So we're
even a
going to
little
drop
bit.
off the gym floor
Drop off the gym.
and
floor.
add in the 9. Okay,
Okay.
understood.
Everybody fine?
Thank you.
Great, thank you, everyone. This workshop is adjourned. Okay, have a...
Probably should have done it for a separate.
Good evening, everyone. I apologize for us starting late. We had a workshop that ran over. At this time, I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the City Council of Satellite Beach. May 15th, 2019, approximately 7 p.m. And Dominic's going to lead us in a moment of silence, or he usually has a prayer, either one. And then we'll be led by the pledge by the Satellite High School Junior ROTC. So, Dominic?
You'll all join me in a prayer. Lord, thank you for allowing us to be here tonight to make decisions for our community. Please continue to watch out over our armed forces who are deployed around the world. Please be with our first responders who are out there putting their life on the line every day to protect us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. ROTC, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think they have.
Please step up to the mic if you would. We'd like to know a little bit about you. We heard some really amazing things about you guys, and please tell us.
All right, so on behalf of Mr. Pruitt, thank you for inviting us here tonight. I'm Nathaniel Bassford, and I'm the Corps Commander of Satellite AFJ ROTC. And with me today is my Command Chief, Nicole Whitney, my Chief of Staff, Liz Cummings, and one of my Squadron Commanders, Jacob Minch. We represent a Corps of 112 cadets. We were recognized by our headquarters with the Distinguished Unit with Merit Award this year. This places us among the top 10% of AFJ ROTC units around the nation. In earning this recognition, we were evaluated by our regional director, who inspected over 300 items. We earned superior marks in almost every area. Although we are only eligible for this award every 3 years, we have earned it 3 years in a row now, like 3 consecutive times. Satellite JROTC is truly a cadet-led and managed program. We focus on leadership with life skills development. Our cadet staff maintains a comprehensive database where we track cadet personnel records and community service events. This year, we were led by an outstanding team of veteran senior cadets who are just days from graduating. Many of them are going on to serve our country in the United States Armed Forces, one of whom will be attending the United States Air Force Academy. It's been a great experience being in the Corps with them, and they will be missed. We have an energetic group of rising juniors, as we are represented here today, and we're looking forward to building upon our past experiences and success in serving the satellite community in the next year. A few of the things we're looking forward to doing: we did a beach cleanup last Friday, Hightower Beach. We're looking on expanding beach cleanups, park cleanups, and helping to keep our city beautiful. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you very much. Great job. Colonel Fish, thank you very much for being here, and a great group of young individuals at the school, and thank you, and please come back. Thank you. This time, I'm going to do citizens' comments before the proclamations is okay with council. At this time, open up for citizens' comments on non-agenda items. This is on non-agenda items.
Hello, Diane Douglas. I just wanted to share that Florida Statute 161, Section 053, says you can't change the elevation of the beach for storm protection. So I just wanted to let everybody know, and if you're in a position of influence, and I wish the ROTC was still here, for not to take the coquina rock off the beach, because that changes the elevation or sand or anything, and there's a law behind that. So, yeah, so save our beach. Leave the coquina rock there. And it's just because everybody is, I don't think they're educated on that anymore. The older people who have been here a long time, the first thing out of their mouth is, you can't do that, that's illegal. But all the new people, the newer people coming are like, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I didn't know that. And they've been using it for landscaping, and you can see it's been used, and there's no coquina rock on the beach. So that's all I just wanted to share. Leave the coquina.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. And if anything happens, I'll reserve my time. Thank you, and thank you all
Thank
for
you.
being here and serving and working.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Still open for non-agenda items. Okay, hearing no further citizens' comments, I will close the citizens' comments portion. And at this time, we have a couple of proclamations I would like to read. And the first one will be with our EMS service. Thank you. I want to thank you guys. So November-ish timeframe, I think I've said this before, an incident at Satellite High School pool. Amazing job. And, you know, times we sit at council, people come up and say, we don't need the service, it costs too much. Read the letter. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to read the letter that the mother sent on her daughter on Thanksgiving. So, great job. So, whereas emergency medical service are a vital public service, and whereas since 1984, the Satellite Beach Fire Department has provided advanced life support medical care 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. And whereas the Satellite Beach Fire Department also provides community medical service that provides preventative medical care and support to reduce 911 incidences and improves the health of our community. And whereas Satellite Beach Fire Department EMTs and paramedics undergo thousands of hours of specialty training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas the City Council and the community recognize the value and accomplishments of the Satellite Beach Fire Department EMS. Now therefore, I, Frank P. Catino, Mayor of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, do hereby proclaim May 19th through the 25th, 2019 as Emergency Medical Service Week. Chief, thank you very much. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Go to the other side. No. Okay. Well, it's funny, I've known a lot of the guys that work in our public works for a long time. So they're great guys. They work incredibly hard for our city. So whereas this is National Public Works Week. So, Alan, whereas public work professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are vitally important to sustainable and resilient communities, and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Satellite Beach. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated effort of public work professionals, our engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, solid waste systems, public building, and other structures and facilities essential to our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children of Satellite Beach to gain knowledge of and to maintain a progressive interest and understanding of the importance of public work and public work programs in their respective communities. Whereas the year 2019 marks the 59th annual National Public Works sponsored by the American Public Works Association. Now therefore I, Frank P. Catino, Mayor of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, do hereby proclaim the week of May 9th through the 25th as National Public Works Week. And to all your guys, I know I see them out there, the heat's coming up, they work incredibly hard. Thanks. the other good thing is Mike and Bert, you've got to each a truck for them now, so now they can just, rather than ride together, they just follow each other around? Okay. Okay, moving on to agenda item 5, city council comments. With council permission, I'd like to start if possible. Sure. Okay. I'd like to thank Courtney and Dominic. They received an award for the Home Rule Heroes Award. They've done a tremendous job up in the legislative this year. And always, Dominic is kind of his thing on council. He works very closely with the representatives and so forth, and Courtney on all the environmental issues, and they were given this award. I received this on May 9th, so congratulations to both of you, and thank you for the work you do. And that's all I have, and Jody, would you like to start?
Just I really enjoyed the grand opening of our DeSoto Park, and I know we're going to talk about that later, and hopefully we won't see us Zumbaing, but
They can watch you.
Courtney, to you and your team, thank you for that great job you put on with the opening of the park. That was wonderful. I mean, so well coordinated. It was really touching to watch how that went on. So I don't think it could have gone any better than the feedback we got was tremendous. So thanks to all you guys for pulling it all together. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Dominic?
I'm sorry I missed it, but I was working that day. On the 2nd, I went to the National Day of Prayer that was hosted by Banana River Cafe and the pastors of this area, and it was another great morning to just be thankful for us living in the area we live in, the city we live in, and it was great to get together and just recognize the fact that we live in paradise. I attended the Space Coast League of Cities meeting on Monday night, and the other thing I wanted to bring out to people's attention is this past week, Dee Anderson, her daughter Martha Kirby, and their family presented our fire department with a $580-some-odd check for a lift device for the fire department because I guess Dee had an issue, and the fire department came out, and you know, she's been grateful for all the work that the fire department has done with her over the years every time she needed them, and they just thought that this was a great way to pay the city back, and they've both been very good in giving back to our city, so I just wanted to publicly thank them for their contribution. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mindy?
Yeah, Dee and Martha, good people. Thank you again. I also went to the DeSoto ribbon cutting, and yes, I did do Zumba, and I am very sorry if anyone gets to see the video of that. So I apologize ahead of time. I also went to the Beautification Board and Nick's Coastal Fair Earth Day celebration. Very, very well attended. Lots of vendors. I put my child to work in child labor for the entire day. I actually even helped a little bit too, and I spent almost the whole day there, and we had people coming from Palm Bay, from all over the area, lots of native plants, bread, who was my friend, by the way, very good bread. And it was really good, and I think we raised a lot of awareness. There's Nick, great job. I mean, that was a huge event to do, and you were running around like a crazy person to prove it. So hopefully next year it could be bigger, we get more people. Key thing, not do it on the same day as backyard barbecue at Surfside. We would have probably had more. Okay. And that's, I know we're in a hurry, but segue is I was in Utah this past week, and always talk about safe streets and how important it's always been for me about having a very walkable, bikeable area. That state has it figured out, man. They've got crosswalks everywhere, bike lanes, and people are out, and it's a very healthy state, and we definitely, I think, are moving into that path. And I know the crosswalks were an item of contention for a long time, but once we get used to them and people start really using it, I think that we're going to really see kind of a change in the dynamic of the area. So anyways, I'm done.
Thank you. And yes, in that park, Alan, great job with your guys and Courtney, everybody who worked on it. Whew. Bill, the day will come, they come. Go there in the mornings and the afternoons, and boy, that park is getting the use. So great job, everybody. Any further council comments?
Yes.
Hearing none, city attorney's report?
I have nothing.
Thank you. City manager?
Thank you, Mayor. We are going to be holding our series of town hall meetings again this year as an ongoing effort to communicate with our residents, and I think you all have the dates. For the community, I'd like them to know, go ahead and save the date for Thursday, May 23rd, from 6 to 9 at the Montecito Clubhouse. Also Thursday, June 13th, from 6 to 9 at Kingdom Gate Worship Center. And then Thursday, June 20th, from 6 to 9 at the Satellite Beach Public Library. All of those meetings, we will be presenting the same thing, but a lot of times the discussion goes in different directions. So sometimes people go to this, we'll go to more than one just to hear it. But those meetings have been very important for us in getting communication from our residents. In fact, it was one of those meetings that we got the idea of doing the sustainability board. So we're looking forward to those. We'll be presenting infrastructure projects and then also discussing the issues with our commercial redevelopment and the challenges that go along with that. I received an email that Satellite Beach has been ranked number 5 in the nation as the safest military town. So that's, and that is done by vivintsource.com. I also received a thank you card from the Ferry family for the use of the beach wheelchair and for the fire department staff providing excellent services to the community. I received a thank you note from Angela Fields regarding our community medic program. And in terms of litigation, we did receive a lawsuit from a person named Joel Price who resides in Volusia County, and they're represented by the law office of Scott R. Dinnan regarding the ADA compliance of our website. And this group has been filing lawsuits all over the state of Florida, and we were, number 121, I guess. And so when we initially responded with Attorney Beadle, but then we went ahead and sent that through our insurance company. We did meet with our attorneys. They recommended that we settle. So we have settled. That I've just signed off on that settlement agreement today. The settlement was in the amount of $8,000. It's the lowest paid at this point. So we feel like we did a small win. It's obvious that the intent of this group is to gain settlements and money. But the fact is that our website is not ADA compliant. The problem is, well, our website is at this point, but it's the documents that are on the website that are not, and which is a challenge because, some of these documents are 10, 15 years old. So it's that choice between providing this service to the community and then, having to take some of it off because we haven't updated it yet. So we are right now rushing around trying to get some of the more important documents, I would say, especially the ones that we're required to have on our website by statute, like our budget documents and our CRA documents, stuff like that. So we're getting quotes right now for how much that costs to convert to ADA, to be ADA compliant. Also, we are adding live streaming to through our websites of our council meetings, which would better enable us to comply with ADA standards for that. And then we will be working with our online software vendors to ensure ADA compliance with our web-based permitting and registration services. That's the other challenge, is a lot of times we source software out, such as our online permitting for the building department, and all of those forms and everything else need to be converted to ADA compliant forms. So those issues, for example, and a good example of that is if you have colored lettering, you can't have that, stuff like that. That's an example of what we have to change. So those are being done right now. So the settlement solves this issue, but it does not solve a future lawsuit. So we need to, that's why we're rushing around to make sure that it's completed. It is frustrating. I think our attorneys said that when they come meet with the clients about this issue, they joke around that it's like 5 stages of grief that we go through, because we go through anger and then we move on to because it is very upsetting that we're being targeted for money, But the bottom line is that we do need to come into compliance. The other issue with that is that the DOJ has yet to set standards of what that compliance looks like. So we're really kind of, hoping that we're targeting compliance correctly. So that's where we're at with that. We do think we did well in terms of trying to settle that as low as possible. And then I think we're on target to be completed with our, conversions as fast as we can. We did receive the report from the Florida Health Department regarding the cancer cases in not only our community, but Century Vieira. Century Vieira, oddly enough, had more than we did. We've included that in your packet and is also on our website. Thad Altman's office and Representative Tyler Soroy's office has been advocating for this report since we started complaining that I haven't done yet. So they were really instrumental in getting it done faster than the year it took. But Representative Soroy has indicated that he is going to try to schedule a community meeting with the Department of Health to answer the questions to the community about that. So we look forward to that. I have received all of your annual city manager evaluations, and I really appreciate your scores. I received 739 out of 750, so I appreciate your support and your advice, and really appreciate, I definitely take your comments seriously, and I appreciate all of your positive and constructive feedback. We're going to watch a video that Dylan has created for our community grand opening, and then we also just pointed out we got this really beautiful article in the Melbourne Beachsider. So thank you, Melbourne Beachsider, for that. It looks really nice. Good pictures in there. And they have a service that you can actually get a plaque with that article on there, and I think that, it's a really low cost to do that, and we can hang that in City Hall, and I think that would be a nice addition, so we're probably going to pursue that. Also, I wanted to, while we're loading this, I wanted to point out that the Coastal Garden Fair was a huge success. I think it was a lot bigger than what we had in the previous years. But that was all done by our Sustainability Board, our Beautification Board, and Nick, and I think they did a great job, and just wanted to compliment them on their work. And other than that, I think I'm good. So we can watch this.
This has been a very special day for Satellite Beach. It took about 20 years to get here. We started back in the 90s with the concept called Communities for a Lifetime. Yeah, the idea is to allow people to age in place, have all the amenities provided by city government that are financially available. And it's been a project with this park today where we actually can allow everybody to exercise and stay fit. Studies show over and over and over again that exercise is so vital to long-term living, and your ability to stay home and remain a viable person in your community.
I'm so glad to be here today to help celebrate the grand opening of our stormwater park. For me, it's a win-win for our environment, also for the people of Satellite Beach. I love that every time I'm driving by, I always see people of all ages here enjoying the park. It has great multi-generational exercise equipment. It's helping our lagoon. We've added a new kayak launch over by the Manatee Canal, so I hope people will come out and enjoy this park, and the city is going to benefit from it greatly.
Didn't want to build just a stormwater fund. We have plenty of playgrounds for children, but we don't really have anything for adults. So we kind of combined all of those, the stormwater aspect, the exercise aspect, and we also have what we call the BAM wall. It's a bioabsorption media wall that's underground that filters water as it passes through, goes to the canals on the west of the pond, and reduces nitrogen by 8%. I drive by every day I'm here, I see people out walking or on equipment. I just hope that people enjoy it for years to come. The Soto Stormwater Park is another feather in the city's cap, and another great step forward for being sustainable and resilient in the city of Satellite Beach and in the Integral Lagoon system. This park is going to help reduce the amount of nutrients in the lagoon, as well as educate the community about how that process works. There's a wide variety of vegetation. All the different trees around here are native and natural to the environment. Big thanks to
Great.
So we usually force Nick into doing all these videos because he's really good on camera, but now that we know that Mark and Jody and Alan are really good at it too, we've expanded our spokesperson.
Keep going.
So, that's it. That's all I got.
Thank you. Questions for City Manager? There are none. Thank you. Thank you, Courtney. Moving on to Agenda Item 8, approve the budget calendar for 2019-20. Listed in our packet here is the dates, July 17th, August 7th, September 4th, September 18th. Is any of these dates at this time conflict with anybody?
I have one that I'm going to be out of town on in September.
Jim, do they meet all our requirements?
In what way?
Don't we have to, don't we have to have it done by X?
We have to have them by September 30th.
Okay, great. Just wanted to make sure that was stated.
I'll make a motion to accept the budget calendar as presented.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Vice Mayor Brimer, second by Councilwoman Gibson. I don't know who I heard first, but Councilwoman Gibson. At this time, since it is an agenda item, I apologize. Open up for public comment on these dates. Hearing no public comment. Back to council. Any further, council?
Okay. Councilwoman Kuzinski?
Yes.
Councilman Dr. Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gibson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brimer?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you, staff. Moving on to agenda item 9, discuss, take action on resolution 1011. Jim?
Resolution number 1011, a resolution of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, supplementing resolution number 958, adopted on August 20, 2015, and as amended by resolution number 1003, adopted on June 20, 2018, authorizing the issuance of a utility tax revenue note, Series 2019, the Series 2019 note, close paren, of the city in the principal amount of not to exceed $3,537,000 for financing the cost of planning, designing, and site work related to a public works facility and fire station, along with the construction of the public works facility, providing that the Series 2019 note shall be a limited obligation of the city payable from utility tax revenues to secure payment of the principal of and interest on such note, providing a backup covenant to budget and appropriate legally available non-ad valorem revenues of the city as additional security for such Series 2019 note, providing for the rights, securities, and remedies for the holders of the Series 2019 note, making such determinations that are required to afford such Series 2019 note bank-qualified status, authorizing the private negotiated sale of such Series 2019 note to Synovus Bank, appointing a paying agent and registrar, making certain covenants and agreements in connection therewith, and providing an effective date. That's a reading of resolution number 1011.
Thank you.
Motion to adopt resolution 1011.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Montanaro, second by Vice Mayor Brimer. Discussion. Courtney, quick question, or Brittany? This note, can it be paid off early with no penalty? Okay. Thank you. Any further? Okay, at this time, open up for public comment on agenda item 9. Hearing no public comment, we'll close the public comment portion. Back to council. Further comments from council?
The only thing I want to say is, we went over a lot of this stuff and we've talked about this, and, there's been a lot of, this isn't something we're just doing tonight without a lot of background information and discussion. So I'm happy that we are where we are, because this is another step of moving forward in our city and looking at how we're going to do the business of our city going into the future. So I just wanted to get that out there.
Thank you. Any further?
And thank you to staff for all the work that you've done, too.
And PFM's here, too, if you have any questions, by the way. PFM is our financial consultant. So.
All right.
No.
Councilwoman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kuzinski?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brimer?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
And Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you very much for working with us. Thank you for Very nice interest rate, and looking forward to
Interest
it.
rate was good.
Thanks for all the help.
Okay. Moving on to agenda item 10, discuss, take action on ordinance number 1171. Jim?
Ordinance number 1171, an ordinance of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, amending the FY 2018-2019 budget ordinance number 1165, providing an effective date. This is the first reading of ordinance number 1171.
Thank you. Brittany?
Do this from the podium. I don't feel right doing it, so. Just a quick overview of the amendment. Every year, about 6 months into the fiscal year, we take a look at the budget, kind of change some numbers, see how things are kind of playing out, reduce some, increase some, depending on how things are going. So just a brief overview real quick of the amendment. Maybe. Okay, so the general fund, the original budget was $12,625,992. The amended budget is going to go up to $13,542,000. We are going to reduce the reserves just by a tad. We did have revenues increased by $916,000. Expenses increased $962,000. So you can see there's not a lot of difference. Main changes to that were, as the city manager mentioned, the ADA compliant. We went ahead and put some money into the budget for legal fees, because we know that's what's going to be coming down, even if that isn't consulting, to hire a consulting firm to help us with the ADA compliance stuff. As well as the software computer stuff we talked about. We bought brand new computers, so we've discussed that. So those are the amendments that we've talked about for the last 6 months. They weren't in the original budget, so we've now amended it. So. All your smaller community service fund, the recycling fund, Sampson's Island beautification, advanced life support, which is the fires, community service fund, which is the police and the recreation trust fund. All those smaller funds are actually going to be adding to the reserves, except for the advanced life support, which Chief Abernathy had come to you guys requesting to take some of the money out of the ALS trust fund to fund some of the things that they needed that the general fund couldn't do. But that's one of the reasons that those two funds ended up with some donations, that they were able to use those funds for those types of things. So the stormwater utility fund, the biggest changes there is the original revenue for the DeSoto grant wasn't in the original budget because it was from the year prior. Well, since we didn't receive it, I went ahead and put it in the amended budget because it's supposed to be coming this year. So, and then obviously the stormwater master plan changed the expenses a little bit. I will tell you, one of the things that we did 2 weeks ago, we paid off the stormwater baffle box debt, saved $13,000 in interest, so that is taken care of, so there's no more debt in the stormwater. So right now we are going to lose about $77,000 out of the reserves for the stormwater currently. Community development agency fund changed a little bit due to the fact of the sale of Doubles, the property that Doubles is being built on. The additional facade grant that we're going to be granting, and then obviously the numbers change a little bit to the excess taxing authorities and how much goes back to the county and how much will come back to the city, depending on how revenues and expenditures play out for the next 6 months. Capital Assets Fund. One of the things I want you to know is that the amendment does include the resolution that you just passed and has the additional debt payments that will be happening. In the amendment, though, there was nothing, we won't make the first payment until June. So it will be, or I'm sorry, in December we'll make an interest payment, so it won't be until next year's budget that you'll actually see the impact. But the revenues are in here to show that, and then the expenses if they all were to come out this year, just so you can see it doesn't really change the budget at all. So. And then, you know, some of the other changes we've had with the air conditioner replacements, and then AM looking and trying to pay off the 2016 fire truck, as well as the RMS software with that's over at the PD. I'm waiting on some buy-offs for those before we make those final decisions to see if there's any penalties for those first. And then the health insurance fund, due to the city moving to a fully insured plan in October, the budget amendment just reduces all the revenues as there's no revenues going into that fund now. All that's happening is we're just finishing off the claims from last year. And so currently I think that number is like right at 180,000. So I went ahead and amended the budget to 195 to kind of finish that up for the year. And then the last slide here is just to kind of give you an idea of where the reserve balances are, where they were at 9/30 of 2018, where the current activity is with this amendment, and where the anticipation is for them to look at the end of this fiscal year. So, are there any questions?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I have one. Just, did FEMA still owe us?
FEMA does still owe us.
And that figure, they still owe us?
Currently, well, so what they are obligated to us compared to what they are, there is a discussion going back and forth between the state and myself in regards to some debris. So if they were to go ahead and pay us all the money that they owe us, it's somewhere close to about $250,000. There's 110 of that right now that is in negotiation. So I will tell you that I have spent the last 3 days down in West Palm Beach at a hurricane conference, and I made a lot of good contacts with some FEMA reps. So I plan on, when I come back on Monday, to feed that information to them and see what we can find out from them.
Great. Thank you very much. Questions from council? This time, thanks for bringing out. Let me open up for public comment, and then we'll come back. At this time, open up for public comment on this agenda item. Here are no public comment.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 1171 on first reading.
Thank you. I have a motion by Councilman Montanaro, second by Councilwoman Gibson. Further discussion? Hearing none. Good.
Councilwoman Rozicki?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Breimer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes. Passes. Thank you. Moving on now to agenda item 11, take action on resolution 1012. Jim?
Resolution number 1012, a resolution of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, authorizing execution of a landscape construction and maintenance memorandum of agreement with the Florida Department of Transportation to allow the city to install and maintain landscaping and medians on State Road A1A. That's a reading of resolution number 1012.
Thank you. Discussion? Council?
Not of this, no.
Okay, just making sure, everybody. At this time, open up for public comment on agenda item 11. Hearing no comment, back to council.
Make a motion to approve resolution 1012.
Motion by Councilman Montanaro, second by Councilman Gibson. Glad we're getting this finished off.
Yes.
It's been a while.
I just got one.
Good job.
This is just the agreement for us to work in the medians. Do we have like a plan for how we're vegetating all of this? I mean,
Yes.
Didn't we already see that?
That's what the agreement speaks to. It's basically a permit from FDOT to allow us to put certain plants in the medians, because, you know, they're not just going to let you put anything out there. And if we don't maintain those plants, they'll be knocking on my door. If we don't make sure that it looks nice out there as far as whatever we put down there as hardscape, they'll be knocking on my door. And if they decide to change the roadway in any way and they want to take those medians out, they'll be knocking on our door. And we'll foot the bill for having to remove those medians. I don't ever see that happening, but that's what the agreement speaks to. So outside of that, I mean, it's pretty boilerplate, I think.
what, just out of curiosity, what are we looking at putting in there? I mean, are we looking at native stuff? Are we looking at?
Yes, native, low-lying, and low maintenance.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was the direction I was moving in is, we don't want to make this a project for your department.
No, we don't, and we don't want to put people out on A1A when cars are buzzing by you at 50 miles an hour plus, you know? So that was one of the bigger priorities I had personally, to make sure that we had low maintenance vegetation out there. So
And, quick question, and when we went over the original plan in the beginning, and I remember what was super important to me, and I think, I don't remember if you remember discussing it, but keeping definitely around the crosswalks, not anything that would inhibit any kind of view of like small children and younger people, so
Right.
that,
And-
you know.
And DOT, that, in the plan, that was, DOT looks at all of that and makes sure that you have a good visibility wherever, so anything that they saw, they commented on, David addressed, and so we're basically good to go, I guess.
Yeah, cool.
Will each median be the same format?
They're going to be basically the same. I think we're going to change it up a little because we do have the mid-block crossings. They're going to be a little different than the long stretch that we have up near Hightower, and, the ones that have turn lanes, like at DeSoto and
Sunrise.
Yeah. So those will be vegetated a little differently, and a lot of pavers and some really nice looking, artwork basically in the pavers. So I think it'll look nice.
Great. Mark?
Just one question, Alan. Have we given any thought to this meeting is sponsored by fill in the blank, and that they could front some of the costs for this, or?
That's above my pay grade.
Yeah. I mean, you see that sometimes in the city, this is, I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there.
I think that's usually for trash pickup. I don't know if.
We
for
can
the
be
design,
different and do something.
I think I'd much rather say this movie theater is sponsored by, personally, so.
I have an
just
update on that too.
The one that's not open anymore.
I know.
No, all right.
I can see you can do it.
I'm making a joke.
I mean, I'm not trying to create a problem here, but I just figured if it was.
The Lions Club wanted to, or if there was an organization, I think we've done that before in the
I
past.
think the women's club
Put a
would
little
probably
sign
do
out there.
something too, yeah.
I mean, just kicking it out, kick it around.
Just divide out the cost of each one.
Mm-hmm. It's not a bad idea.
Right. Well, but, and that's a beetle question, would be, do you allow anybody to buy advertising or sponsorship? That would be my only concern,
The other thing is that now I've seen where they'll do an annual renewal, so that somebody doesn't take it for 25 years type thing. You can rotate different people through, so that nobody has it forever type of thing, or, whatever. Just throwing it out there.
Or maybe just check on it and just see what we can come up with.
Yeah, we can look.
Is that good?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Alan, one other thing to talk to these FDOD people, ask them where my left-hand turn arrow is, please.
It's coming. It's in the next budget cycle.
I think, I got a letter on that, and so we're trying to figure out what they're talking about with the letter, so we'll update you at the next meeting.
Thanks. Just making sure.
It's going to end up on Roosevelt. That's where it's going to
Probably
end up.
somewhere else. Okay. Any further discussion? Go ahead.
Councilmember Zicke?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Breimer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you, staff. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 12, discuss, take action on establishing an ad hoc committee to guide the design of the Public Work and Fire Station building. Courtney?
Thank you, Mayor. We had a recommendation to establish an ad hoc committee to assist the staff and the city council in the design of the Public Works and Fire Station buildings. And so we have put together a recommendation for a 7-member committee. We are hoping that because we're trying to focus the work on the design of the buildings, not the functions of the departments, to put pretty seasoned residents on the committee. So we're hoping to get the design done in 6 months at the latest. And so if we're bogged down in committee members not understanding the functions of each department and wanting to discuss that, which happens, we're nervous about that. So we were hoping to put in members that were very familiar with the city and what these departments do. We were also recommending that 2 of the board members, one of the board members come from the Sustainability Board, and one of the board members come from the Beautification Board. So we were recommending, and we were recommending that we allow those boards to just choose who serves on that committee. So the members that we were recommending were Mike Chase, Lorraine Gott, David R. Schechter, David Omler, John Fergus, and Steve Osmer. And we added Steve Osmer at the bottom, very bottom.
It was on the very bottom.
Very bottom.
That makes 8, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So instead of 7?
Yeah, I just
Okay.
added.
So Courtney and I, we had a big discussion on this. I like the people that are on it, but I also wanted us to try to see, and maybe we get this off of the 2 other boards, and there's nothing wrong with getting old, so nobody take this personally. But I really wanted to also see someone from Jody, and some of the younger people that are in town and part of the town to start being involved and put their input in on it. And I know where Courtney's coming from because we discussed it, but so maybe if you know someone on you're the sustainability board, I believe, right?
And I'm the beautification.
So that's what I was trying to.
Most of the people on beautification are all new, so I think you're going to get a new.
There was one lady I think we put on the beautification board. Is she the late? I think we put her on there. She at Percy Hedgecock's house. She owns a lot at the end of Redwood. Did we place her on the?
There's one that just resigned from the board, and she resigned, and I think that might be the one you're talking about.
We just put her on.
Yeah. She's new to the board, and she has another opportunity that came up that she was really, into, and I can't think of what her name is. But
Okay, I was just.
It's Susan Savar, I think.
That's not the one I was thinking of, but anyway, I'm good with it. I just wanted to see some different age brackets.
And if we wanted to expand the board, because other people maybe became interested that seemed qualified, is that something that you guys could do? Because you're saying an 8-member, but the recommended action isn't to put a specific number on there, right? So that could change if you decided to shrink it or grow it, the board, ad hoc, I mean,
I would just ask them to come to the meetings, but we're hoping to get it done in like 3 meetings.
Okay.
Just because of the timeliness. We have money sitting in the bank, and I know that these committees can drag on quite a long time if we let it. So that's the concern.
Well, this was something, when we initially talked about this, I was kind of not really in favor of doing this, but I think from the perspective that you're asking us to do this now, I think this is a good idea, because I was more concerned about people being on there that didn't understand the nature of what the departments do. So, from this perspective, looking at the buildings as the buildings and the architecture, and I'm okay with this.
Right. And that's what we were hoping, that the board or the committee would focus on the exterior building design, interior, and only the interior layout as it relates to the impact of the site, because it's going to be really difficult to go from department to management to decide what's going to go in the interior and then go back to a committee, when we really want them to focus on the exterior design and the access and the relationship between the buildings and the community. And to that end, I had a meeting with the owners of the Phillips Plaza today, the Atlantic Plaza, and they are very much wanting a connection between Jackson and the building, and they are definitely going to work with us to get, hopefully, a rear access for the fire trucks to pull in, and so they don't have to go around Scorpio Court, which would be a hard angle for them to make. So they are interested in helping us clean that area up in the rear. They are going to do some improvements to that building. They do have another movie theater interested in moving into that section. So, but they want to make it more attractive and open up, the how you walk in, it's like a kind of cave. So they're hoping to make that breezeway brighter, and and make, if they could get a restaurant on one side with a rear patio in the back. That's why they want that connection to Jackson, and they'd like to have that, connection with the city and with the school, kind of clean up that whole back area because that's so visible from Scorpion Court, you know. And every time I drive by there, I'm like, ugh, you know. And I think of just what a waste of space, you know, and make that real nice. And so they're very amenable to working with us on that. It was a good meeting.
Do I have a motion before I open up for public?
So moved.
A second?
I'll second.
Good, Jody got it.
Second by Jody.
got it.
Okay. At this time, open up agenda item 12 for public comment. There are no public comments. Back to council. Any further?
You've asked these people already and they're interested?
Yep.
Okay.
Steve, I just asked.
Don't worry about him.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Quinn.
He's the very last.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Breimer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ruzicki?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gibson?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes. Thank you, Steph. Moving on to agenda item 13, discuss take action on formulating the youth council.
Want me to talk about this?
This is our new councilwoman. Yes, please. Great idea.
The League of Cities sponsors youth councils in many of the cities in Florida, and I think we are the perfect city to add that. So what I'm just asking today is your approval to move forward with this and start planning it out. If you, not that we need to discuss it tonight, but if you have any ideas towards this, and as we come up with the idea, then we'll bring it forward to you all again. The hope is to get this ready to go for the fall.
Great.
And it would be students of Satellite High School age students. We haven't determined how many or the term limits or anything like that. That's all things to be worked out. But I think it would be a perfect fit for our city.
I think it's a great idea.
I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm not making the motion. I just wanted to say something. Go
Do we
ahead,
need to,
make a
do we
motion
need to make a
first.
motion to vote on this, or, yeah, it's discussed, okay.
Yeah.
On forming a youth council in the city of Satellite Beach.
I have a motion by Councilman Gibson,
I'll second.
second by Vice Mayor Breimer.
I think this is wonderful that you have brought this up to us. I mean, I've been aware of these, you know, throughout the state, being involved with the league, and I just I'm not connected to youth the way you are. And I think you're going to be looking at the people that are at Satellite High School, and they have gone through your class. So you know who they are, and I think just doing this, and you being the one to handle this, because I think this is probably going to be something that you would be the liaison to the youth council. And I'm just thrilled that you brought this up.
Thank you. It's a great idea. So, and like I said, you know, Mr. Schechter, he's still Mr. Schechter to me, they included some high school students in the Bicentennial Commission when I was a high school student, and that has always, obviously, it's resonated with me, and it's something I remember doing and enjoying. So I'd like them to have that opportunity. I think it'd be great for our city, and I think it'd be great for them as they're applying for colleges and scholarships and all those opportunities that.
And they you know, Dolores already had a board, and Satellite has one now, so you've already got people that have, so I think it's great.
Okay, great. At this time, open up for public comment on agenda item 13. Hearing none, back to council. Great idea. Any further? Quinn?
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ruzicki?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Breimer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gibson?
Yes.
And Mayor Patino?
Yes. Jody, great job. It'll be great. Thank
We
you.
will work on that once school ends.
Just
a few more
Okay,
weeks.
moving on to agenda item 14, discuss, take action on resolution 1040. Jim?
No, I'm already jumping.
1010.
Excuse me, 1010.
Resolution number 1010, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, banning the use of herbicides containing glyphosate on city-owned properties, providing a severability clause, and providing an effective date. That's a reading of resolution number 1010.
Thank you. I'm for it, but Jim, what I'd like you to look into, if we can ban it in the city totally by anybody. There is nothing that I've read that this stuff's any good for anything except making you sick. And I think today, was there a settlement today or something on Monsanto?
It was yesterday.
It was yesterday. $2 billion punitive damages.
Yeah. So I don't know if we can, but I'm for this, but I'm also for us not allowing it to be used.
How do you regulate that with 500 different mowing, like, I don't, is it
Technically,
possible?
mowing companies are not supposed to be using
Do
that.
they? Okay, so, lawn service or?
Oh, I know they
They all
do,
do.
but technically,
Why?
I don't know how, other than
they're
it's
not
us
supposed to be
making that
spraying
attempt
stuff.
to,
You have to be
And I'm
licensed
okay
by
with
the
that,
you know,
Department
and
of
then maybe the good
Agriculture
people do it, and
spray
if it's
stuff.
90%, excuse me.
They are
90
though.
No, not lawn services.
My lawn service doesn't do weed
mean,
control or anything.
The
Most
the
of them
bigger
don't.
companies might be licensed, but the 9,900 other lawn service companies that are using it are not licensed by the Department of Agriculture.
Jody had a question here on how would you enforce it or that. I'm not sure that's one kind of do, maybe it's the good people are going to do it.
Right.
You know, they're going to see it, and it's a step in that direction, but, you know, I'm for this, but I'd sure like to put, if we could put teeth in it,
Yeah.
would be fine, but I'd like to just, to let people know we don't want this type of chemicals being sprayed around.
Once again, I think this is education, and I was going to ask you, in here it says Spectracide Extended Control. You know, this is something you could use. You have it in here, Nick, or Alan?
Yes, so.
I mean, if we're looking at banning something, we should offer alternatives, and they're in here. If Spectracide makes something that's not, you know, the same chemical, and we can use that, we
Well,
should be
we're-
letting our residents know.
Well, we would, if, on this, Nick. his
Well, we're
program.
also, and, you know, Nick put together a little test area. We've been using Miramichi, which is an organic weed control. There's salt and vinegar, which is a weed control. They use it on the golf course. There's a special salt that the golf courses use to control weeds. And it's very effective. I see it all the time. So there are organic measures you can take. You know, the downside to those is that they don't kill the roots. It's just the surface vegetation, and then, you know, it grows back in a few weeks. So at that point, it becomes a money issue. How much do you want to spend and things like that. So, but for the safety and the sustainability aspect and just, you know, the environmental aspect, you know, that has to be weighed, you know, what's working more.
So we've,
Jim has, either one of you.
so what we've done is, in looking at some of the other bans that have occurred, particularly in South Florida, for example, the city of Miami did a ban on city-owned properties. They start out similar to us, like when we started out with our invasive species, we decided to make sure that we complied with that action prior to trying to making it a citywide endeavor. So that's what we're proposing here. What we did, though, is what we looked at, you know, what are the environmental impacts to the lagoon, particularly because that's, you know, the water body that everybody thinks of. And we found peer-reviewed studies that did confirm that there is a correlation with the application of glyphosate and the health of microorganisms in the aquatic systems and terrestrial systems. So because of that, we were recommending to stop using it on city-owned property. And because we knew that we were going to go down this path, Nick and the Public Works Department has put together many study areas of other alternatives. And while we do have other alternatives, like Alan said, there's a consequence to any change that we make. So the consequences are there will be a little bit more work, there's going to be a little bit more cost. The other issue is that we're going to have to just understand that we're going to change some of the aesthetic standards that we have grown to like and love, So that's just some of the things that we'll have to eventually change. And so as a city, we would be taking the lead on that and showing people how that would happen first. And that would be my recommendation before we look at applying it citywide. Doing that citywide, we can easily guide our own actions. It's very much more difficult to do that, on a citywide basis if they're still selling it places. So it's very similar to the fertilizer, we can ban it during certain months. You can see the application, and maybe, neighbors tell on neighbors and stuff like that. But we did it largely through education and things like that. So we can look into that, Mayor, and we can bring that back to you. But our recommendation would be to start with the city-owned properties, and let, people see the impacts and see that, yes, we might have to change a little bit, but we can, it can be done. Because we've researched it, just similar to like what we were talking about with the fertilizer. We stopped fertilizing City Hall grass, and you can see the consequences to that. There's some patches coming up in areas that, aren't going to look so good. And so at some point, we're going to have to look at alternatives to that area. And, like the ball fields, I had a parent ask, we were testing Miramichi with, we dyed it purple so we can remember which one we used. And a parent asked on Facebook, said, are you using these herbicides and pesticides on places where our youngest players play? And the answer was, well, we're testing out our organic herbicide, but people have to understand on the fields, we will never stop using pesticides and, certain herbicides and fertilizers, because otherwise you'll be playing on dirt. So that's, some of the things people need to understand. So we can stop using them at places like City Hall, Pelican Beach Park, and stuff like that, but not on athletic fields. It's not.
And I'm all for that. I just want to see, Jim, if you can, take a step and see.
Well, my question to you is, and I thought about it, is are you looking at an industry like the commercial fertilizer business, or because the issue is, as Courtney indicated, people can go to Indian Harbor Beach and buy Roundup down there and bring it here. I mean, when you're talking about prohibiting it in the city, are you going to go after the residents of the city for using Roundup?
I'm just, containing glyphosate. I mean, just simple as that. You can't use it. I mean, it's deadly. And, I don't see anything. I don't want to tell people what they can do, except it comes to a point when what you're doing is so bad that, is in the environment. So,
Well, I'm just saying.
And I don't know the answer, Jim, to how do you enforce it or any of that.
That's what I'm
getting at. And again, a discussion for later, but I would sure like to know if we can.
That's fine.
So I'm a firm believer in leading by example. I mean, we're really good at doing that. And I think when people see that it is possible, although I got to tell you, I've done the salt and vinegar, but maybe I needed the salt, because, man, that did not work. Torching it works really good.
There's a special salt, and I get the name of it from the golf course, but there is a special salt that is just for that. And you just put the salt on there, and you watch
I'm down for that.
Kill the weeds, and it doesn't look pretty. There's brown spots everywhere, but,
It works.
But I think in the long run, people are becoming more aware just based on the education, just the awareness just by the nature of just social media. It's one of the good things about social media is there's a lot of environmental stuff you're learning, like all these things are very dangerous, but all-out bans, they're just, I personally have a hard time with them, just because I like to think that we live in a free country and people should do the right thing on their own, and banning it, they're just going to go somewhere else that's not banned, and they're going to find it and use it. But maybe if we educate them nicely, and they'll do it on their own. Hopefully, probably not, but hopefully.
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 1010.
I have
Second.
a motion by Councilman Montanaro, second by Councilman Gibson. At this time, open up for public comment on agenda item 14.
Good evening, Steve Osmer, Cinnamon Drive. On the subject, I would just like to say that, one, I agree with the way we've done it in the past. We did this with invasive species and trees, right? We cleaned up our own house first. We got everything taken care of in city property before we went out and told the residents, don't do that. So I agree with that. That's a good way to do that. This is something that has been taking on for some years. Currently, right now, Germany and 13 other countries have already all-out banned this. Places like Bermuda has already because they have water all around them and had done it all right. They had for all commercial and personal use to do this. California added it to Proposition 65 list, and Monsanto actually went out there and filed suit against them and lost. So it is now listed as a carcinogen out there. And, when you talk about in light of the issues we've had around here, people talking about water and cancer and all these things that we got going on here, this is just another one of those things that if we don't do this, then we're just adding to the problem when someone says, our groundwater, I'm exposed to this, to the yard, this is going down in the river, this is running down the street, this is going into our stormwater. So I think it is the right direction to do this, because obviously these are problems we're already having, problems that we're trying to lead forward on and take care of. And it's not like we're going to be the first person to ever do this. This has been going on now for almost 10 years. Countries all over the world have already banned it. It's actually the United States is the one that's kind of a little late to this party to do that. So I'd be all for this, leaning forward on that, and again, starting maybe slowly, take care of our own house, take care of the city properties, do that first. Again, educate people, show that yes, it can be done, and then that way we're all going to be better off because of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Gail Meredith. I'm a happy Satellite Beach resident. Thank you all for making the special and wonderful place that it is. I really wanted to urge you to do this. I really agree with what Frank said, that it would be great if we could ban it completely. I agree with what you said about the $2 billion lawsuits that are coming down the pike. And I think here a special concern is what's happening down south, in Stewart, where they're testing people for microcystin, and whatever's happening with the cyanobacteria and the effect that Roundup seems to have on that, and the fact that they're finding every person they've tested has a microcystin. And the Sierra Club actually this month is going to have Sullivan speak from Harbor Branch, who has a devastating presentation that I saw at the Citizens Oversight Committee, a meeting that's why the Sierra Club scheduled him, but it's about how bad for a long time, those of us who are around the water know that what's in the water is also in the air. But there's been substantial denial in Florida about how deadly this problem is. And I really am so glad you're taking action. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comment still open? Hearing none, bring it back to council.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
The position that we're taking on this vote is to basically do exactly what Steve said and what you said. We're going to clean up our own house. But I think there's information in here that has been presented to us that, we can use in a Beachcaster article. We can say, we are doing this. Here are some alternatives. And once again, I think it's the education that, people are used to seeing things in the Beachcaster. We give them good information on stuff like this. So we start with that, and then when the time comes, if there's an ability for us to be able to say, we don't want it used anymore, we can say it. We may not be able to enforce it, but at least we can go on record as saying, we don't really want this in our city.
I can tell you that the St. John's has, since
The moratorium.
yeah, I was in their boat out there, and I'm at the ramp, and here's these guys, the spray truck, the airboat with the spray tanks on them. And I saw them, I started talking to them. They were dressed up in hazmat suits from head to toe. The next morning, I was out there, and anything they touched with the chemical was dead.
Yeah.
It's in Lake Washington, drinking water. They supposedly put a moratorium on it, but you've got to see what happens when they spray that concentration, that stuff. It's amazing. So I agree with everybody. I think it's a good start. The Beachcaster's a good tool. One of the things we've always talked about is selling the thing, promoting this. People who want to do good are going to do it. The other people, maybe they'll get shamed into it, but I think we have to do it.
And we were preparing, for the Beachcaster articles and the Facebook information, and I was hoping that some of the typical residents that are here, or even most of them are non-residents actually, that come about issues with the cancer would be happy about this and promote it also for us, but it looks like none of them are here tonight, interestingly enough. But I think the speakers that did come out tonight, I appreciate you supporting it, and so we'll be definitely on top of the fact that we definitely want to get out the education piece. And I know, for example, Nick was just at Surfside doing a stormwater education event, and so I thought that was neat, good pictures from that. But that's some of the stuff that we've been trying to do with the community, so we'll definitely add this to that.
I was just going to say, the one word that hasn't been used that I would use is encourage residents to not use it. Kind of how you encourage them not to use plastic straws, you encourage them to use not plastic bags when we go to Publix. If we're not doing an all-out ban yet, use that word encouragement.
Great.
Education and encouragement.
Great. Thank you. Everybody okay?
Okay, Councilwoman Rozicki?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Breimer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Nick, thank you. Thank you, staff.
Thank you.
Alan. Agenda item 15 is our next council meeting, proposed agenda, a recommendation. We had a good workshop prior, but I think that discussion needs to continue. I think we got questions and we really got to finalize that list. My suggestion, Courtney, to you is, if it's okay with everybody else, maybe we have another little workshop before that meeting, so we can work on that. Just what I got out of listening to everybody, it seemed like we had more we could have talked about for a little bit, so.
Maybe we'll have more information too.
If you need more time, Courtney, we can do it in the middle of June, whatever you guys need to do to come back to us.
I won't be at the 5th meeting. I have a pension trust fund meeting that.
Courtney, anyway, that's kind of something we're interested in, if you could work it out and then let us know. Whether you want it to be as early as the 5th, or if everybody's going to be here on the...
Because I was going with the direction that I got, so we could start the cost estimating and loan research and bidding.
But I think we want you to come back too and make sure we've got the cost on all those projects, correct? I mean,
Right, but that would be an agenda item.
Okay.
Did you, if you want another workshop, then we wouldn't do another.
Okay, then I'll bring it up to the rest of council then. Do you think we need more discussion on this?
I mean, I think we got the general idea. I guess the only questions I have are like drilling down the numbers of, where we're at. I know we're trying to get into 3.462, whatever million dollars that is, but, obviously if we could get below that, that would be good. I don't always like that, like if I can just make this fit into this box, because sometimes maybe it would fit into a smaller box if we gave a smaller box. Not saying, does that make sense what I'm trying to say? But I feel comfortable with kind of how we left it to a certain level, but we don't know the exact numbers.
Yeah, and I
It's
figured-
where I don't.
Yeah, and I just would like to say, okay, maybe this is more of a want than a need right now on the list, or you say, here's why, and maybe there's a little more background information, and you might add something.
Are we under time constraints because of what we did tonight and did we sign stuff?
No, but so I got, the direction that I received was enough for us to go back and finalize numbers and bring that back to you. And, if you want to take something out after that, that would be fine, but.
That's all right, Courtney, that's fine. As long as we're going to keep the discussion and have another chance to look at the list.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
yes, but it'll be more detailed, and we didn't want to go through a bunch of work of detailing everything if you didn't want to do the project at all. So, for example, now we're not going to detail the xeriscaping, because you said you didn't want to do that. So, do you see what I'm saying?
So you're going to, when you come back, we're going to be looking at the lighting, and we're going to be saying, okay, here's what we have left for lighting, based
Right,
on.
here's the final numbers for the lighting,
and
here's the
we kind
final.
of decide how we want to do the lighting at that point.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm good
that's
with
fine.
that.
All right. So any other items that you would like to see on whatever, like we normally say, just please see Courtney or the staff, okay? Moving on to agenda item 16, approval of minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of April 17th, 2019.
I have a motion by Vice Mayor Breimer,
Second.
second by Councilwoman Rozicki. Further discussion? Hearing none.
Councilwoman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rozicki?
Yes.
Councilman, Vice Mayor Breimer?
Yes, ma'am.
And Mayor Patino?
Yes. Motion, minutes approved. Any further business?
I just want to say one last thing. Well, thank you very much for these. I don't know if anybody else is, I like these a lot better than the old council packet, so I just wanted to let you know.
They're definitely better for the environment, and mine always came in a roll, and then it had like random papers, you know, falling all over the place.
You don't have to put anything, it's got little pockets in
Yeah.
here, do a little thing.
Any further business?
We could make a team.
Any further business? Council? Hearing none. Meeting is adjourned.
Just kidding.